Good evening. I ain't think I see many people in here tonight with I guess, the sports event that we got going. Hit the like button on y'all way in. I'm trying to compete with a fight right now. Yeah, I ain't think I see uh many people in, but I'm not really into the whole fight. I might catch the highlights or something like that, but yeah, I ain't really following the actual fight or paying to see it. I plan to do this live stream. Well, I started and set it up earlier today, and I ended up kind of remodeling my recording area. I ended up like changing some stuff out. I just made it a whole lot more comfortable for me to be able to record. I had like a small desk here. You can't really tell because everything pretty much is in the same spot. But yeah, I had like a small desk here, so I got like a long table with much more workspace, so I could kind of get a lot more done. I'm trying to like just make a few improvements and so forth. And then yeah, something else I looked at, I was shout out to KMB Trucking. He was kind of giving me a heads up on my sound during my last morning stream. And I went back and listened to it, and yeah, I just realized that I can't use this headset with that microphone. So that was that problem. So yeah, all of this is like a learning process. But yeah, when I'm using the other mic, I'm not gonna be able to use this headset because yeah, the sound in that stream was horrible. Like yeah, it was really bad. So yeah, KMB, if you're in here right now, appreciate it. If not, yeah, you catch it on the replay. Appreciate that heads up. Yeah, because yeah, that sound was bad. But yeah, other than that, I got a few topics that I want to touch on today. I've had this planned out for a while, but like I said, I set it up earlier pertaining to all of the details and so forth. And the reason why I wanted to do it was because I got a question during a recent live stream from somebody in the chat, and he was kind of undecided on which way to go pertaining to the cargo van or a box truck. And in my opinion, it's pretty clear cut, where you should start. But I kind of want to give just a more in-depth look into, just startup costs, certifications or qualifications, classes or licenses, and so forth. But like I said, in my opinion, it's pretty clear cut, which direction you should go. But individuals really need a breakdown, to kind of get a better understanding. So I'm gonna run through this really quick. Hit the like button on your way in. Yeah, I don't plan to be here really, really long tonight. A couple other things that I touched on. Appreciate you, KMB. Appreciate you. Yeah, another thing that I kind of touched on in my last stream, like I said, I'll kind of go over it again because the sound was so bad. But I talked about how I cleaned up the members only. I'm going to be doing some work over there. I've had individuals asking for my emails, so I'm going to be providing that within my lives and so forth. I've cleared out a bunch of emails, so if you need to email me, it's open. I'm going to be dropping some Zoom calls. I talked about that. All of this I talked about, but when I listened to that live, yeah, I was very unsatisfied with the sound quality. And like I said, that was the first time I used this headset with that particular mic. And yeah, it was a disaster story. So yeah, I talked about some Zoom calls, 1 hour, and also like some shadowing that I've been thinking about. All stuff that, like I said, I kind of already went through. But I wanted to touch on that again. Cause like I said, that sound quality was just so bad. As you guys roll in, hit the like button for me. So yeah, I just wanted to go over that once again. And while I'm here, on the spot, what's happening? Good evening. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. I see 11 people. Hit the like button for me on y'all way in. Let me get started. Yeah, but I had a few things that I kind of wanted to touch on. Like I said, just kind of contrast some differences between the cargo vans and box trucks. Like I said, to me, it's pretty much clear cut on which direction you should go. But I mean, I still get a lot of questions. I see a lot of questions amongst other channels. And so, me being and starting a cargo van, like I said, I ran local as well as expedited. So, I have an understanding of that side. And I've been in the box truck for 3, 4 years now. So, I've done both and I understand the costs on both sides. So, today, like I said, I'm just going to contrast some differences. So, first and foremost, in a box truck, I mean, I think everybody understands that you're going to have higher earning potential. And that's why a lot of individuals lean towards box trucks, or, they look to get into a box truck right away because they're looking at the earning potential, how much they could potentially make per week, per month, per year. So you see a lot of individuals that, they kind of sleep on the cargo van game, if you will. And, they want to get straight into a box truck. But first and foremost, earning potential aside, it's going to be a lower barrier of entry, in the cargo van. And right now, what I want to do is explain why, and I think the number one plus side to starting in a cargo, I pulled up some pictures of the vans that I've had in the past. I may pull them up again because I think that I'm sure that live stream is, not public. So I may go and show you guys those again. But first and foremost is the hours of service. And these are things that I've talked about in the past. But like I said, I'm going to go over them again. In a cargo van, there are no ELD requirements for individuals because we always think in a sense that everybody in the room understands what these different devices and terms and alphabets are. So a ELD is a electronic logging device. What it does is track your drive time hours and total hours of service as well as breaks. Why you need this is because there are regulations for how many hours you can drive. So instead of using a paper log as old school truckers did in the past, now you have a ELD. So you go on duty at a certain time. You take a break at the 7.5 hour mark. You're allowed 11 hours total drive time, including the break. So if you're using the ELD and you're out 750 air miles of your said business address, then you will be logging, hours on, a ELD device. If DOT happens to pull you over, more than likely they're going to require that they look at that, and it's downloaded from the device to their computer within their squad car, so they could look at how many hours you've been driving. Now, the ELD tracks your drive hours, but you can go over. They can be violated. That's all up to the operator or the driver. But that's what an ELD is, and that's the purpose of it. So in a cargo van, there is no ELD requirements. In a box truck, as I stated, if you go outside of 150 air miles, technically, you should be operating with a ELD. If you're crossing, 2 and 3 state lines, which 9 times out of 10, you're going to be outside of that 150 air miles, you should be using a ELD. So, like I said, this is required for a box truck. It's not required for a cargo van, no matter how many miles, air miles or not, that you travel. You don't have to run an ELD. So not only is that one less headache, but, it also allows you to drive more, depending on whatever company you may be working with or a broker. You're not limited as someone who would be running under a ELD. Technically, there are no hours of service requirements, but you will be restricted by whatever company or whatever broker that you choose to run for. I think I see 16 people in here right now. If you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button for me one time. So that's one of the biggest differences. I think biggest pluses to operating out of a cargo van as opposed to a box truck starting out, because like I said, the cargo van does not require an ELD, and being new, that's just one less headache that you have to worry about starting out. It's also one less expense. I believe ELD on average, it's a bunch of different providers, but it could cost you about $600 a year for the device and the service, give or take. So like I said, starting in a cargo van, immediately saving money and a headache, not having to abide by hours of service so strictly, and not having to run an ELD. So that's the first plus side. And I think one of the biggest, because oftentimes the ELD for a lot of drivers, like I said, it's just a headache from their point of view. But there are safety regulations in place for a reason. I know they have added in the last 2 or 3 years like a split sleeper berth. So, these are all pluses, and, making using a ELD, less of a headache. But a lot of drivers don't, appreciate it. They don't like having to operate using one. Old school drivers love using paper logs, and you got to ask them why. They'll tell you, but I ain't gonna get into all of that. But paper logs, drivers love them, but with the ELD, it's a whole lot more strict and straight to the point. I see 19 people. If you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button for me. So outside of the ELD, we'll move away from that. The next thing that you do not need in a cargo van, that you do need in a box truck, is a UCR, or United Carrier registration. And this allows you to cross state lines moving goods. And the UCR itself is about $50. The service involved in certifying it is, I believe, between 150 and 175. If somebody's seen it somewhere for cheaper, drop it in the chat. But yeah, I think it's about 150 for the United Carrier registration, which is required for a box truck each year. So that's about $150 each year. So you have $600 for the ELD in a box truck, plus the UCR, 150 to 175. So that's another certification that's required, and another headache. One other thing is going to be less fuel, diesel, gas, whatever it may be. I was just watching a guy in a Sprinter van video like maybe 20 minutes ago, and he was saying that to fill his van up, and I was shocked this close to what I was paying to fill my Sprinter van up. I believe he got like a Ford Transit. It may be smaller than the van I had as well. But he was saying like 60 to 70 bucks. And that's what I was paying to fill my Sprinter van up, say maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So when I look at that, let me look at some comments. Yeah, when I look at that, I'm like, wow, it ain't been a whole bunch of changes. Yeah, I'm missing some stuff. Brian Hebner, what's happening? Appreciate you. Kenny in the building. Care to share any future goals with your box truck business, scale up or no? That's a good question, Kenny. I plan on adding a van within like the next 3 months and putting a driver in it and filling the driver out and then seeing if they even, suitable to put in a box truck. Yeah, that's my next goal with the business. Yeah, I gotta get somebody else, Sometimes I get lazy, sometimes I get busy, and business is not just being in a truck, it's other aspects of running a business that have to be tended to. You have individuals that come off the road to, stacks and stacks of mail, individuals that may miss bills, communications from the FMCSA, a bunch of different, things that can go on just from running a truck hard. And anybody that runs, they know that. But yeah, at times there's other things that I need to tend to. And I'm starting to just realize that I'm gonna have to hire somebody. I don't want to deal with the risk associated with putting somebody in a box truck right now, just pertaining to low bridges. Once again, what I'm talking about, DOT, regulations, things of that nature. So it's so much more pertaining to hiring, and that's something I was going to talk about, but I can talk about it now. Hiring drivers. You're going to have a lot more trouble hiring drivers for box trucks. One's just due to a higher class of license. Once again, technically, I'm not going to talk about what happens, everybody does something different, but technically, when you put a driver in a box truck over 16,000 pounds, you should have them have a Class C driver's license. In a cargo van, anybody can drive that with any class of license. So you don't have to look for drivers with a special class of license, a Class C, or hire individuals and then have them obtain a Class C. You can hire somebody with a regular driver's license in order to, operate a van. So that's something to think about as well, on the side of, which way you want to go. Eventually, like what I'm talking about right now, you're going to have to source drivers in order to take on some of the workload. So with that being the case, you're going to want to, it's already tough enough to find decent drivers even for a cargo van. But like I said, it's much more difficult, and I've done it, hiring drivers and retaining them in a box truck. You also have individuals that will tell you they can drive a box truck, and then when they get in it, they can't. So now you have to start a whole training process in order to get the driver once again suitable enough to even operate. So that's something to think about as well. Man, let me look at a few more. Appreciate you on the spot. Look at this one. I damaged a gas pump in a box truck the other day on my first run from Vegas to San Jose. Is this a serious problem for me? Yeah, you definitely gonna have to pay for it. It's probably gonna increase your insurance premium as well. But yeah, it's just something that happens, especially being new. That's something else I'll talk about as well, just the risk factor. Well, I kind of was just talking about it. You'll have drivers jump in a box truck and they'll say they could drive it, and you know, things like that happen. And it's not always a gas pump, it could be a low bridge, a gutter to a house or a business. It's so much that can be damaged. There's so many blind spots on the box truck, even more if you don't, adjust the mirrors correctly, which, that's something people don't think about. But yeah, it's even more blind spots if you're not having those mirrors adjusted properly. So all of that, comes into play. But, I don't know how much capital you have on hand or, what you've already made. Well, you saying it's like your first run. So yeah, I'm sure nothing. But yeah, it's definitely gonna hit your insurance. But that's what insurance is for. So they should cover it. But also something you got to think about is when you have incidents of that nature, at times you may end up being possibly dropped from your commercial insurance company, depending on the cost of that pump. If it gets excessive, in their opinion, then they may possibly give you like a 90-day notice to where they won't extend insurance to you further. So, these are all possibilities. Hopefully that's not the case. And, they'll cover it. I would say right now to run hard and try to, build up that little nest egg to, be able to sustain whatever the consequences are. But like I said, that's what insurance is for. But they do reserve the right to, not insure you further after like a 90-day notice. So it's all possibilities that, come with it. But like I said, they understand, but they do look at the time they've been insuring you, the time you've been in business. All of these are factors to say whether or not, they're willing to, you know, insure you further. So hopefully it work out for you. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be like an increase. You'll see that. I don't know what that pump costs. If it's a couple grand, a few $1,000s, it shouldn't hurt too bad. But you get to getting into 10 and 15 grand. And even that could be workable. It just all depends on the insurance company, to tell you the truth. All that's kind of left in their hands. And then they're thinking, from a financial aspect as well. So if they feel like it'll be another occurrence soon, then they won't, continue to insure you. Kenny say OTR local with the van, and why a van over the truck? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting into, Kenny. But I would probably do regional with the van. Me personally, if I was jumping in the van now, I wouldn't try to stay completely local, but that's also based off of my market. You know, with me being in Illinois, near Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, you know, I would just run those states. And I think I could be profitable, especially if I supplement it with like gig apps. So me personally, I would go regional. So neither, not OTR, not local. I will go regional and then supplement with gig apps or, you know, some type of maybe part-time contract, or you could, you know, hook up and find something. And that's something, you know, I want to say with the cargo vans is you're gonna see a lot more opportunities between gig apps, you know, direct customers or, you know, contracts you could get off of like Indeed, you know, local stuff and so forth. It's gonna be a lot more opportunities with the cargo vans as opposed to the box trucks, especially right now. You know, with, you know, it's somewhat saturated in my opinion in, you know, a lot of areas. So that's something for individuals to think about. For future videos, get a GoPro with it. I got a GoPro with a head strap, and I didn't use that before. It's super awkward riding around with a GoPro on your head. What a lot of people do is they mount them to the dashboard. I got dashboard mounts, but oftentimes I use different cameras. So some of my shots I'm not using a GoPro. Usually I use the GoPro if I'm like sitting for a long time in the truck recording, you know, more than a few minutes. But oftentimes what you see is a mixture of the GoPro and at least one other camera. But yeah, I get what you're saying. You definitely, you know, want to mount them on the dash for multiple different reasons because it gives the shot a more professional feel. You know, because if you hold in the camera, you got a steady hand. It'll be steady for most of the point. But when that truck really, really, really get to jumping, you know, and that's what you guys don't see, because see those points will get cut. But yeah, if the truck get to really bouncing, then it messes up the scene. I saw another guy in a semi, he was saying how he had recorded a whole, I don't know how long scene, and he couldn't use it. He just recorded it when he got on a more, you know, smooth surface because one of the surfaces that he was on, it was just so bumpy that the footage, you know, you can't use it. So yeah, I get what you're saying. That's a good piece of advice. Yeah, no problem. El Malik, no problem, no problem. But yeah, those are, you know, some of the differences. Another thing that I'll touch on is hold on. If you in here right now, and you ain't hit the like button, hit the like button for me one time. Yeah, so another thing that I touch on because this factors in as well. And you can't just hold this like set in stone, but you're going to pay somewhat less on maintenance for a cargo van. Now, when I was in a Sprinter van, and this is a common problem with Sprinter vans, it's also a reason why you'll see a lot of individuals, even content creators, they'll go with like a gas application. But you have knock sensors that'll go out on those Sprinter vans every couple years from when I was in one. That's what it seemed like. I had an issue with mine twice. So, and that's the only problem, but that's dealing with the depth. So it'll start derating the van, just like a box truck derates for different reasons. And what I mean by derate is it'll restrict it to maybe 60, 55 miles per hour, and it'll just keep restricting it until it has you in limp mode. With a Sprinter van, what it'll do oftentimes is give you, I think it was like 10 starts. So you can start the van 10 more times before you just got to tow it to a shop or limp it at 5 miles per hour. So that's something to think about, thinking about a gas or a diesel. I believe some of the Ford vans do have diesel applications as well, but a lot fewer than the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. You playing with a diesel van with those Sprinters. Now, some of the new ones are gas. They started making gas Sprinters right when I was coming out of mine. And I was like, that's a good idea. I don't know how reliable those are, but they do have a gas application Sprinter now. But with the diesel version, which is a lot of what you're gonna see out here on these car lots and at the dealerships, they do have knock sensor issues that will arise. They run great when they running, but if those knock sensors get to acting up, it could cause you a bunch of problems. And when you expediting, which I've had that problem when expediting, and I had to return home at 45 miles per hour from about 1,000 miles away. So anybody with any type of common sense know that's a testy trip. And the van made it back home. But I'm going, up and down mountains, back roads, inclines, and I'm only able to do 45 miles per hour and not knowing if the van is going to completely derate to where I'm just stuck in the middle of nowhere. Most of the travel I was doing was during the day. So that's a plus side. But yeah, I've been derated in a Sprinter van, like I said, close to 1,000 miles from home due to knock sensors. So, that's just something to think about if you decide which van. I would always tell individuals to go with, the largest van possible. Just due to, individuals will say, well, this is all you need. When you are trying to maximize profit and, you own these different load boards, different loads come up, just like how I talk about with an old box truck, you got a small van that could carry 2 skids max. And a lot of those orders on the load boards, the expedited loads, even locally, you're going to make more money with a bigger van. But expediting, I talked about that in the past as well. Sometimes you have to sleep, in awkward little slots and places due to having a load. I talked about how I've had to sleep on top of a load before. So you want to have the most space possible, especially if you expediting and sometimes having to sleep in a van. Anybody that's expediting will tell you, you never know sometimes what you're going to come up against, what type of load you're going to have. But that's why I tell individuals to get the largest van possible due to that reason. You never know when it's going to be a bad week and everything is 3 or 4 skids. If you turn 4 skids sideways, you should be able to get those in the 170 wheelbase Sprinter van. You should. I know you can get it in the extended, which is still 170 wheelbase, but it's like 4 feet at the back end. And once again, that's good sleeping space. You never know how you Even if you have to sometimes lay across the floor, at least you got a place to sleep as opposed to, being on the front seat, which is just a rough, rest when you got to get back up and drive. So if you looking for a non-diesel application, your best bet is going to be with a Ford. Me personally, I never recommend Dodge ProMasters. And that's just my personal preference. I do have a subscriber, Slick, that he's operated out of one and for a long period of time and, been successful with it. Not a whole bunch of issues, but I believe he keeps it local. So that's something to think about. If you must go with that Ram ProMaster, I would not advise you to take it over the road. Keep it local, near the shops. That's just my honest advice. Run around Dodge, dealerships to just be there in that area, because I wouldn't advise you to get 8,000, 1,500 miles from home and you in one of those vans. I had a driver, who was operating out of a box truck that just had a lot of issues with one. I think it was like with the brake, the ABS, it shut the whole van down while it was driving. Something with the lane assist or something like that. Middle of the road, middle of the night. So, I've never recommended ProMasters. I don't like the way they look. They don't look like they have a lot of room. I did see a guy when I was expedite. He had a nice little setup, but the setup don't mean nothing. But he had a real nice setup in the Dodge ProMaster. But when his bed was out, he could only get one skid in there. But he said that was a lot of what he was moving. He wasn't trying to run really hard. So he didn't care about, not being able to get more than 2 skids in. But when I went same way as when I purchased a box truck, I wanted something of size. I knew when I got a box truck, I wanted it to be 13 feet high, at least 8 feet wide, at least. I wanted air brakes. I wanted the aluminum roof as opposed to the translucent, but I didn't get that. But most of what I was looking for, I was able to get, pertaining to my truck. Same thing with the Sprinter van. I went through a bunch of different vans, looked at a bunch of different dealerships. That's something I advise individuals too. Take your time looking. Don't get in a hurry trying to get in business and then end up with a lemon. It happens, because you buying a vehicle, start a business, does not mean that they're going to sell you a good one. So do the legwork. It should take you 2 to 3 months to find a proper vehicle. It shouldn't be, you might be able to do it in a week or two. But me, I like to give time frames. It should take you 2 to 3 months to find a proper vehicle. I mean, to actually get it home, it should take you 60 days or so. If you go out, you find a vehicle in a week, you're probably going to find out a lot about that vehicle later on down the line. So that's something to think about. You don't really want to be rushing nothing, pertaining to, those type of decisions in general. That air ride go crazy. Man, do it make a difference? Because I'm going to tell you something. I see 15 people in here right now. If you ain't hit the like button, hit the like button for me one time. I started and drove a bunch of box trucks, through Enterprise. And most of theirs have, a shock suspension. They don't have air ride. So it's like night and day. I mean, them trucks beat you up and you get used to it, but it's irritating. Like I've talked about this, you literally cannot keep I remember not being able to keep a cup of coffee in the cup holder. It's just jumping all around, splashing on the windshield, on the seat, almost jumping out of the cup holder. that's how bad it is without air ride on a truck. Like my truck has air ride. So, yeah, it's like night and day. I mean, unless you get on a really crazy surface, you good with air ride. You got to be on a really rough surface for the truck to just get violently, just bouncing all around, like I said, to the point where I can't even record unless it's, just right there mounted on the dashboard. So, yeah, that's something to think about. When I got my box truck, I had to have air ride. And it's because I was tired of the, Enterprise trucks. And I don't think they ever gave me a truck with air ride. I don't even know if Enterprise has trucks with air ride. I don't think that's a feature that they add. I could be wrong, and it's a bunch of different Enterprise truck rental locations. None of the trucks I had air ride. The first truck that had air ride was the truck that I bought. So, most don't have it, especially the older trucks. Spent $10K over 2 transmission repairs with the ProMaster. Stay away from it. Telling you, man, I hear all type of. Slick was the only person that told me, that he hadn't had a bunch of issues with, his ProMaster. But he said, I believe, that he runs it locally. So if you're doing local light stuff, you may be able, like I said, local and light. You don't want to be going long and heavy. Nah. So yeah, if you local carrying light loads, it's a good possibility. But yeah, I wouldn't play with them ProMasters at all. I did research on them before I got my van, and yeah, I wouldn't get a Ford then. Now, watching how individuals have performed in the Fords, it's different content creators that have Fords. They're reliable. You're gonna do maintenance on whatever. So I think the Fords are reliable. I still will go with the biggest one, the tallest one. I think the tallest Ford is a little taller than the Sprinter. I think the Sprinter, if you walk around in the back, is 6'3". I think the Ford is a lot taller than that. So, I think the Fords are reliable. They workable, and I believe they are a lot more. Well, I know they are a lot more reasonable pertaining to price. So, yeah, if you want to go with either a diesel, like I said, the gas is probably gonna save you a lot of problems. But I was just talking to a buddy of mine's in a box truck. You get to running these trucks even hard over the road, up in the mountains, and that's what was happening. He running good local. He get to running that truck up the mountains, all 800 miles away. He up on a mini vacation. All of a sudden, that EGI start acting up. I told him you didn't clog it up. You be running local or short hauls, and you be decent. But when you get to going up and down the mountains, that's why you got to kind of stay on top of maintenance as well. But this individual, he stay on top of his maintenance. It's just bound to happen. The EGR constantly. Once you clean it, as soon as you start driving, it starts back, getting filthy. I bet if you take it off 8 hours later, it's dirt in there again. But what messes with the performance of the truck, is it actually having, almost a total clog, and then it's sputtering, running weird, possibly derate, kicking on lights, and so forth. So that's a common problem with the box trucks is the EGR clogging. Also, DEF issues, on the DEF applications. So, that's something to think about as well. And DEF problems with a diesel van and DEF problems with a box truck, 2 different worlds. Like I say, those NOx sensors are going to probably come out about maybe a couple grand, but the box truck, you know, you could be looking at all type of numbers. So it's just something to be aware of pertaining to cost. And that's why I wanted to do this, just to contrast, the differences. But yeah, you got many more gas applications with the Fords, than the Sprinters. And, what I was already, talking about is just you're going to be, in a much better place hiring and sourcing drivers pertaining to once you begin to scale or just remove yourself from the van. It's going to be a lot easier to hire and source drivers pertaining to them just having to have a regular driver's license as opposed to a Class C, in most of the box trucks that you're going to be looking at. If you want to run Amazon, most likely your driver's going to need a Class C license. You don't need that in a van at all. It's also no med card. In a box truck, every 2 years you need to get a medical examination, checking for diabetes, high blood pressure, things of that nature. And ultimately, they're checking your fitness to drive a commercial vehicle. And yeah, in that, not only is it cost, but you also have to clear that medical examination. So that's something you don't have to worry about in a Sprinter as opposed to a box truck. So no med card in a Sprinter. I also feel like it's going to be a higher success rate, with you starting out in a van, and it's going to be easier to scale drivers, cost wise, etc. That's what I talked about as well. I had, 3 cargo vans and a Sprinter van that I started up with. And, the vans that I purchased were, very cost effective to say the least. I once again took my time and found cheap vans that actually ran. And I was able to use 3 of the 4. One I never put a load in, I just ended up, selling it. But yeah, that's something to think about. Kenny said 2 transmission rebuilds. 10K. Wow. Guessing 5 a piece, huh? How much you recommend to stack up before getting in? Pertaining to what, the cargo van or the box truck? For the box truck, I talked about that. I believe I said 15 in capital, maybe, a $5,000 credit card, some type of, fuel card. And number one thing is to make sure that it's towing included in your commercial insurance. You can get that. Don't get a commercial insurance policy that does not include at least some type of basic towing. Between towing and repair, if that happens early on in your stages of starting to operate, it's a good chance that'll put you out of business. That's why I tell individuals, make sure that you have towing included in your commercial insurance policy, the same as you will have with a vehicle. It's going to be an upcharge, but ultimately, I was talking to a lady. She was saying, I believe her first tow was $1,500, and that was for like 170 some odd miles. So, a tow, a maintenance bill could easily put a new owner operator out of business. So make sure you have towing included in your commercial insurance policy. But yeah, 25 to 5 and, a personal credit card, maybe a $15 to $2,000 fuel card, make sure the towing is in your insurance. And, that's what I would feel that you would need to have a box truck plus the truck. So you're talking about 25, 30 total, plus the truck with the, it's just kind of spread out. Cause I don't want to say you need 25 cash, because if you got a credit card with a decent limit, some type of fuel card. Like I said, you're not worrying about ever having to actually tow the vehicle yourself unless it's excessive, then you should be somewhat more safe than an individual that's trying to start with say 5, 6 grand. Now on the Sprinter van side, I would say a cool 10 should get you in. Maybe a little less. It just depends on what what van, maybe a lot less. But I don't want to just throw out crazy numbers because I understand that it's a lot that comes with getting started. But what I will say is, and I'm gonna show a couple of them. I bought and purchased vans, and neither one of the cargo vans that I purchased, of course, the Sprinter was like 30, but none of the cargo vans that I purchased were over $1,500. And one I got a whole lot of use out of, you know. Another I did some moves and I got some use out of as well. The other I patched up and I sold it. But they were all good vans and neither one of them cost me over $1,500. So it could be done. If you're finding vans at that rate, which I talked about that, if you know an auction, somebody that frequent auctions, someone with a dealer's license, man, nobody wants them. Well, maybe now, but even now it's kind of rough. So nobody really wants box. So what I'm saying is nobody wants cargo vans. Those are greatly overlooked at the auctions next to Camaros, Scat Packs, Chargers, and all of this different stuff. Nobody's looking at, a cargo van. So those will slip through the cracks for less than $2,000, because everybody oohing and ahhing over sports cars, that they could barely fit in. So that's what you got to think about with the cargo vans. You could find them for cheap, maybe get in for 7 or 8, with the van. But it all just kind of depends on a lot of people not patient. They don't want to put legwork into looking for the van. So, they go with first thing they see at the first dealership that say they'll give them a chance and, they finance and you still gonna have issues with those. Me personally, like I said, with the box trucks, I advise individuals to go, 2014, 2015 or newer. With the vans, just get a van. I would just get a van that runs and that will haul loads. That's and it just can't look horrible. It gotta have some type of, you gotta be able to, pull it up to somewhere and people not think it's gonna break down up the block. But just get a van. Also, parts are more expensive in a truck compared to a van. Sometimes, depending on the repair, depending on the shop, they may not get to your truck. You may have to leave it. Yep. Sometimes they tell you to get a hotel, go home. They'll let you know when it's going to be done, and a lot of that depends on, that's why I tell people too, have multiple different mechanics on hand, have a mobile mechanic on hand. It's a bunch of mobile mechanics. You got to be careful because you can't just let everybody pull up and go to working on your truck. But at the same time, it's plenty of mobile mechanics, but you need 3 or 4 mechanics on hand because somebody could be busy, somebody could be on vacation. It could just be, other issues to where you can't get your truck into one particular shop. And when you down, you down. You can't afford to have a truck that's not moving. Oftentimes trucks break down with loads on them. So, with that being the case, you want to have speedy maintenance, or somebody you could call and get there in at least a couple hours, to get you back up and going. Renting a truck is more expensive than a van, of course. Yeah, renting a truck is, highly expensive. I'm sure they renting a little cheaper right now because like I said, they cold called me, a few weeks ago. So I'm sure they not just, gouging like it was a couple years ago. because yeah, the rental rates got crazy, a while back, and they were highly popular. Like I was making a joke in the video, like because you never really see rentals, or it was a while where you barely saw 'em. And they kind of started to, resurface somewhat to a small degree. But I think that's just a lot of the rental companies cold call. And, by them doing that, offering deals, rates, and so forth, they're getting some trucks back out because they got to stay in business as well. So, what's your advice for a new authority? Pretty much like I said, me personally, and I got a few more things I'm a contrast, but I'm pretty much through just a lot of the differences. Like I said, you definitely have a higher success rate. It's gonna be easier to scale. I talked about more opportunities. Used vans are cheaper than used box trucks. You can get a used van for less than 3 or 4 grand, whereas a box truck, in my opinion, if you could find one for under, 5 or 6 grand, you good. I've seen them 7, 8,000. You know, you could find them. I would say 8,000 may get you something that a fixer upper. Something you may have to do a little work to. A box truck. The vans, you can find them 2, 3 grand. So, it's gonna be easier to scale in that sense. And like I said, you're gonna have a lot more opportunities. Less earning potential, of course. That's why a lot of people sway towards the box truck, just for the earning potential. But like I said, it's so many opportunities. You got Curry, just the popular ones. You have Curry, Mothership, Delivered, Freight, Roadie. Now, something I was hearing about Roadie is that on their large orders, and I don't run Roadie, but this is something that I'm getting from another individuals on their large orders. They've gone down from 50 to $40 somewhere here recently. This is what I'm hearing. I've never ran Roadie, but I know people that run all of these apps. So it's just like, you got to take it or leave it. And that's what I think he was saying, that, you just got to work with it pretty much. But you got Roadie, Uber Eats, Instacart, CVS. You can run medicine for, I believe, like it's like $8 a stop or something like that, if that's something that you would be interested in. But like I said, it's gonna be stiffer competition in the box truck. So overall, the point that I'm getting to without making this too long and outdrawn is, me personally, I would advise you to start in a cargo van. Like I said, any cargo van that's reliable, that can move freight. It's not gonna constantly be breaking down, and just not a 100% eyesore. You don't want to just get, something that been wrecked or crashed or just got a whole lot of damage. I wouldn't advise that at all. But it's a bunch of vans that are cost effective. You just got to kind of look around for and do the legwork. And I think, yeah, a lot of people, well, I know for a fact a lot of people come into business, rushing, and they just want to get in something. And then 2, 3 months down the line, they regretting a lot of their decisions. So that's something you got to think about, when starting out. Like, the turtle wins the race. I just say that, that all of the quick moving, eventually it just kind of gets you into a bind. See what we got here. And some people may have saw these, but I'm gonna pop them up one more again. I see 20 people in here right now. If you ain't hit the like button, hit the like button for me one time. You just joining the stream. And I'm gonna share. showed these recently. This was one of them. So this one was a 2005 GMC Savannah 2500. Pretty solid. Like I said, I believe I got it for less than $1,000. Back then, I was buying and getting so much stuff together. But yeah, I know it was, I believe I paid like maybe $800-900 for this van. I'm almost sure of it. And like I said, this is a viable option. It got a little, a little rust or wear and tear here, if you want to call it that. But you could run with this. Like I said, just nothing too, crazy. But yeah, this was a solid van, and I ended up selling it. I did a reasonable amount of work in it. But yeah, something like that, and it was extended. So yeah, something like that will just, get you started, and you just work your way up from there. You run that for maybe a year and a half, make some money, and then find you something else. Let's see. And then I had a really so this is a Ford. This actually was probably the strongest van that I had, but I never actually and it had the most space, but I never actually ran a load in it, being 100% honest. Pull it up. And this was it was a convert, so they put a piece of like plywood across. They did a good job. They cut it perfect. But yeah, it was a long piece of plywood, and they took the seats out. And yeah, it just had a bunch of extra space. So yeah, yeah, it was crazy inside of that van. You could almost get at least 3 skids in there. Because if you could see where the seat is, this is the seat. So all of this is just space. So you could get 3 skids in there solid, and it'll pull them all day long. Like it didn't have no motor or trans issues at all. Like it was rolling. And I think I got this for, I don't even think I paid $600 for the van. I talked about how I had to do some body work on some of the panels. But once again, even right now, to me, you know, this is something you could start in. What's wrong with it? What's stopping you? You got a little bit of rush here. Nobody really gonna care about that. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, it's a lot of cheap options out here pertaining to vans as opposed to, a box truck. It's gonna cost you a lot more money to get in a box truck. And like I said, it's a higher failure rate as well. So that's just something for individuals to think about. I see 18 people in here right now. Hit the like button for me. KMB. If someone wants to get into a box truck, maybe get a CDL and work for a company to see what it's like. Get some experience. Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. And then see if it's, something you actually want to do. Some people get in trucks and then realize that they just don't want to be in one, just being 100% honest with you. And then now they already invested. So, it's pretty much now like what you gonna do? Usually they either gotta stick with it or take a huge loss because buying and selling equipment, two different things. You're not gonna get, you know, what you paid for most pieces of equipment after the fact. Not now, a few years ago you could, but you could get more, but not right now. But yeah, that's just, a lot of my take on, the differences. And I talked about fuel, and I was watching the guy before the stream, and he was saying how, yeah, he's spending 60 to 70. I know he had a smaller van than what I had, but he said he was spending 60 to 70, you know, in order to fill up. That's the same amount that I was spending. So right now it's probably a little more to fill up a Sprinter van, especially the 170 wheelbase. And then you also had a 170 extended. And yeah, that van even kind of look crazy when you look at it. You don't see a lot of them though. You see the 170 wheelbase, but first off, the extended is usually on back order. Cause I was talking to a dealership and yeah, they just hard to come by when I was looking, and they were telling me that, like, yeah, they really that extended is hard to come by. How long you been self-employed? 6 years. It was 6+ years ago the last time I worked a job. Probably closer to 7. Found a box truck with 273 miles for 20K. Does that sound yeah, that sound reasonable. I will still have it looked over, but yeah, that's super reasonable. But I do tell people too that if you're gonna get in a box truck right now, get a sleeper. I've been advising people with that just because they the same price. What's the difference? Get you a good Freightliner with a sleeper or a Hino or something. They have them converted. I would get one. If you got a back seat, you good. You don't necessarily need the sleeper. People getting away with sleeping in regular box trucks. If you at a truck stop with a back seat, a 4-door on a box truck, or you good. I don't see you getting bothered too much. So yeah, but SD definitely 20K, 273. I think I got 280 on mine. So I bought it with 205. And yeah, that's a good mile range. I would kind of check the filters, the DPF filters and stuff like that. Make sure they good because that's somewhere around that 300,000 mile mark. Oftentimes you have to get them things baked, but that's minor. You could get that done for cheap. So yeah, I wouldn't trip on it too much. He said he found it. Yeah, that's the route I would go. I'll go with that Freightliner with the sleeper. Like I said, have it looked over, check the DEF system, the DPF, you know. But usually with Cummins, the motor gonna be kosher. So get you an Allison transmission. I would mess with it Eaton again, me personally. That's another thing, like rushing or just trying to don't even make that sacrifice of getting an Eaton transmission. Just get you a truck with an Allison. That way you avoid a whole bunch of issues. But yeah, in a nutshell, with the cargo van, and this is the way I would go. It's the way I started, man. If I started again, with the money I had then, that's the way I would start again. But yeah, no ELD, no hours of service. So you don't have to worry about that. Usually, too, they kind of fly under the radar of DOT altogether. You don't have to go in weigh stations. People want to dodge weigh stations and things of that nature. You don't even have to go in with a Sprinter van. So that's something you don't got to worry. We ride right by 'em. You're gonna spend less on fuel, less on maintenance. they got more gas applications in the vans as opposed to box trucks. So, you know, you're not gonna find many box trucks gas unless you got one of them new ones that Amazon got. So it may be some, but far and few. So that's something to think about as well. You know, you can get a gas van. Like I said, the diesel van applications do have knock sensors. It does have a DEF system, just like a truck. That DEF system does malfunction. So if you go with a diesel van, understand that you can deal with DEF issues. You probably will at some point. But like I said, they got many gas applications. It's going to be easier to scale, hire drivers, and so forth. Honestly, the only benefit I see to individuals starting in a box truck is higher earning potential. If I really just broke it down and was 100% honest with you, the only advantage I see is higher earning potential in a box truck. All of the other advantages pertain to starting a cargo van. If you have capital and you're able to foot the bill to start in a box truck, renting or buying, do so. I'm not trying to discourage you, but I'm telling you my honest opinion. The only advantage I see with an individual being in a box truck is just that you can earn more quicker. That's really the only advantage. But other than that, like I said, you gonna have a easier time, less headache sourcing and hiring drivers. You know, they coming in with a regular license. Hiring drivers for the box truck, Class C, if you're doing it the right way. So all of this is stuff that I want individuals to think about. Your drivers won't need med cards. That's something you need to think about as well. Are you going to pay for them to get med cards? A lot of drivers show up, they don't have a lot of funds on hand. You may have to help them. So if individuals need med cards, you may have to assist them, maybe withdraw it from a future check. I had to do that. I had to foot the bill for a med card and then just take it back in 2-3 weeks. So this is something Sprinter van drivers don't need med cards. So all of this is just stuff that I want individuals to contrast and think about. Like I said, go which way you feel the most comfortable. I just want to give you the facts. That way you have an understanding of what you're facing, you know, in a box truck as opposed to a cargo van. And, you know, that's just clear and cut, straight to the point. You know, you're going to have a whole lot more opportunities as well. And it could get stressful running even a cargo van business, but you know, you compile that trying to start in a larger commercial vehicle. So I'm already driving semi trucks for a company, but I'm gonna buy a box truck. I'm skipping the van step. And like I said, that's your right. And yeah, like if you think you could come in, you know, and be successful in it and you got the capital to cover it, then do it. Don't let nobody tell you different. You know, like I said, you're going to, once you come around that learning curve, you're going to, you know, have a way higher earning potential. And you may be able to just take off, you know. But a lot of people succumb to, you know, the overhead. That's why I say, you know, the cargo van, that overhead in the box truck, just with the fuel, you know, 60 to 70 in a van, you know, 150 to 200 a day in a box truck, you know, and that's not filling it up. That's just to get you to where you going and back. The van, that's 60, 70, I believe that was filling the guy I was looking at van up. That would fill my Sprinter van up then. It's probably closer to like 90 to fill the Sprinter van up. Now I could be wrong. It could be less than that. It might be a lot less than that. But yeah, it was about 60 to 70. It probably, because I think the fuel was around the same amount back then, somewhere in there. It wasn't $5 or $6. So found a sleeper too. I think it was modified, so didn't know if it would mess with the measurements. Yeah, I would try to stay away from modified. You want as much space in that box as well for cargo. So you don't want to forget about that and then get crazy with a sleeper. Now you got a sleeper, but you can't fit, the loads properly. Some of the Amazon loads, they looking for you to have that, full amount of truck space. So yeah, I would try not to go with the modified. Me personally, I wouldn't go with the modified. I would go with the long cab. Got an E150 right now, just difficult to move how I want with a right. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Cause that tire you out. I work third shift too, so yeah, I definitely know the feeling. Definitely know the feeling. Diesel is crazy right now, around 381 per gallon. When I started driving, way back when, it was less than $1. Yeah, I remember fuel being a little more than $1. And yeah, 110, 120, when I really could, understand what fuel was. And yeah, it's crazy now. It's crazy now. I see 20 people in here right now. If you ain't hit the like button, hit the like button for me one time. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all for tapping in, especially during the fight. I didn't expect many people to show up. I was gonna do it anyway, regardless. I would have did it with 2 people. But yeah, no, I definitely appreciate everybody for showing up. Well, yeah, most definitely. Yeah. And yeah, I got another van if you interested in it. It's in my community post somewhere. So yeah, if you're looking for that, yeah, if you want to see that, just go check it out there. I ain't gonna look to try to pull that one up. Yeah. But yeah, man, that's pretty much my contrast on, box trucks versus cargo vans. And like I said, the only real advantage I see to start in a box truck is just high earning potential. That's what's going, entice a lot of individuals into the direction of the box truck. But just be careful because, it could get hairy on that side. But individuals come in are successful even today and wing it and figure it out. But at the same time, like I said, I think the cargo van side just gives you so much of an opportunity to learn, even like negotiating with dispatchers and so forth. That's why I learned all of that. That's why I gained the mindset that I have now pertaining to freight. It was from being in a van and, coming from there. I started local in a Sprinter van. And eventually I started to expedite. I was already looking at a particular expedited shipping company while I was local. And yeah, once they gave me the okay, because they kind of had me on a waiting list, honestly. They wasn't hiring right then. And when they pulled me in, I was happy to get out there. But it was even a different experience for me. I talk about that, like with expediting, you in a lot of unfamiliar places for days at a time. You're just sitting and waiting, so you have to know how to, move around. You're not at home. You're not going to always be inner city. It's going to be, different places. I did a lot of running in like West Virginia, treacherous roads, even for a Sprinter van, treacherous roads, even more treacherous in the wintertime. I got videos way back when while I was in the Sprinter van coming through West Virginia. So, Chesapeake, Virginia, beautiful place. I went over there, went across the Chesapeake Bridge and so forth. So, it's beautiful over there. You go over the bridge and you just looking and it's just like just water, So yeah, I've been all of those places and I enjoyed the experience. I wouldn't want to do it again. Now I'll be more I ain't think as much then as I do now, so yeah, it's different. I wouldn't want to go, way out over the road again. Yeah, I want to talk about that. Yeah, I appreciate the competition, keeping me growing and keeping me leveling up. So it is what it is. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of upgrades coming to the channel. Stay tuned. Appreciate you, Isaiah. And I'll touch on this too, why he's saying, because this is something I thought about myself. You know, until it was brought up, not one subscriber, cared about what subscription I was using pertaining to StreamYard. I got not one complaint with, the ducks on the screen or whatever the conversation is. We'll put them back for a second. So this is the issue because it says live with StreamYard and this down here, which, like I said, nobody cared about. But yeah, with the paid subscription, you could remove that. One of the reasons why I was using the free version, because I think it's common sense, exactly what I'm telling you guys. I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in with my streaming software. I might have wanted guest cam, guest eCam. I might have wanted StreamYard. So by me using the free version, I learned the controls, and then I was able to decide if that was the direction I wanted to go. That way, I didn't waste my money. Let this be a lesson to how you start your trucking company. Don't let nobody rush you into making any decision, ill-advised. With everything that I do, I like to do research. And there's nothing wrong with the free version. But the point is, I feel like the free version was being brought up because it was a slight to say you can't afford the pay version. I feel like that's what it was. It wasn't so much about the ducks on the screen. It was more to say you don't have the money to afford the free version. So I got it the next day. And that's that. I don't want to talk about, other content creators tonight. But yeah, that's what it was, why I was using the free version and why I upgraded. So yeah, they did make me upgrade my stream just to show that, the little cost that it cost for the upgrade was nothing. But like I said, I will reiterate, nobody subscribed to the channel said one thing about what version of StreamYard I was using. Actually, I don't even think people knew it was free. Because if you weren't a content creator, how would you know? And they got free versions of Guest Ecamm as well. I did research on that too. But I decided to try StreamYard first. So that's how that panned out. But it ain't a big deal. It ain't a big deal. Let people say what they're going to say. Like I said, you just see your situation through and make sure you do what you got to do. So yeah, now I'm going to stick with StreamYard. I like it. I've learned it. I understand how to operate it. And one thing I will say is when you do remove the watermarks, it seems like YouTube tends to push the stream more. So maybe they don't like those watermarks on the screen because I noticed, a difference in my analytics when I was using that. But who cares? Like I said, did you get the message? That's what really matters. Did you get the message? And I think that every stream that I did with the ducks on the screen and 780p, everybody got the message. So it wasn't an issue. Try doing what in a flatbed? What else we got? What else we got? I think that was everything for the most part. So yeah, anybody trying to get in contact with me, drop that one more time. And then yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. I think we've been on here what? Right up under an hour and a half. Perfect. Perfecto. What y'all doing? Y'all going to the fight after party? Y'all checking out the after party? I know it's gonna be a lot of after parties popping off. Everybody's still out here spending good tax money. Spend some for me. But yeah, man, that's my contrast of cargo vans versus box trucks. Like I say, you do with it what you will, but I just like to bring the facts and give something for individuals to look back upon, when making that decision. So yeah, that's my whole goal in, all of this. And yeah, we got the software right now. So, I might just start streaming every day. It just who knows? I'm thinking about it. We might start the space been kind of dry for real. Like I might gotta start streaming every day. That might be what gotta happen. But yeah, man, with that being said, man, I ain't gonna hold y'all up. Y'all enjoy y'all Saturday night. Stay safe out there. If y'all operating, like I said, they still doing inspections pertaining to ELDs and hours of service, which we kind of talked about. Sprinter van drivers don't got to worry about that. So hit the like button if you have not done so already. If you make it to this point in the replay, hit the like button there as well. You guys have a good night. I'm out of here. Peace.